Travis Martell here with Martell Elite Fitness. I believe it's extremely important for youth hockey players to be able to perform bodyweight exercises before they start lifting weights. One of the best exercises for younger hockey players to perform is a push-up. Unfortunately, a lot of young hockey players can't do a proper push-up off the ground because their core isn't strong enough. They end up sagging too much through their low back. So today, we're going to talk about the 3 steps you need to work on so you can end up doing a push-up properly off the ground. Step number 1 is to have something you can do an elevated push-up on. We want to be able to have our hands up a little higher, which allows us to perform the push-up a little bit better. So here, what I have done is I have set up the squat rack so the bar is about waist height. You're going to set up the same as if you were on the ground, except for our hands are up on the bar. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place our hands just a little wider than shoulder width. We're going to take a step back, so we're leaning against the bar. I want to make sure that I'm not sticking my butt up in the air and my hips are tucked underneath, so I'm nice and strong through that front side. From here, I'm going to slowly lower myself down so the bar is in the middle of my chest. I'm going to push myself right back up. You don't have to have your heels on the ground. You can be up on those toes, and that way, as you go forward, you're not going to get too much of a stretch through your backside. The big thing here we want to focus on is keeping the shoulder and the hip and the ear in a straight line all the way through. What I don't want to see is as you lower down, you start to look up here, or we lower nice and strong, and then as we go to push up, we end up leaning back through. So with the hands elevated, our push-up should look like this. Hip, shoulder, ear, straight line. Everything lowers at the same rate, and everything rises at the same rate. The other thing you want to focus on is that upper arm. We do not want the elbows out to the side, nor do we want them right tight to our side. We want them on a 45. So think about a hand width between upper arm and the side of your body. Once you feel comfortable enough doing about 20 to 25 push-ups with your hands elevated on the bar, then we'll come down to the floor and we'll work on our second progression. The second progression is a kneeling push-up. We still want to continue to have that hip, that shoulder, and that ear in a straight line. With having our knees on the ground, it's a little less weight for us to push up and lower down, so it's not as much stress on the core. We don't put as much demand on the core to be strong. So start with knees underneath hips. Get your hands set so they're underneath of our shoulders. You want to try and tighten up through the shoulders, through there. From this position, we're going to slowly lower ourselves down and then slowly push ourselves back up. Once again, as we lower, we stay nice and strong. As I go to push up, I do not want that extension through the low back happening. So I want to keep this low back nice and strong, and I'm doing that by trying to tuck the front of my ribs to the front of my hips. So once again, start knees underneath hips, hands roughly right under your shoulders, tighten up through the shoulders, keep those ribs and hips tucked in the front, slowly lower, keeping ear, shoulder, hip, straight line, and push yourself back up. Slowly lower, and push back up. The only difference between our knees down in a push-up and our feet up is the length of our body. The longer our body is, in this position, the harder that is. So we shorten our body up to make that push-up more manageable. It allows us to do it properly. Once again, once you can perform about 20 to 25 reps of good kneeling push-ups, then you're ready for the third progression. Now that you're able to perform about 20 to 25 perfect push-ups off your knees, you're ready for the third progression. The third progression is a push-up hold. So we're going to get into our push-up position. We're going to keep those ribs and hips tucked in the front. We're going to lower ourselves to about half, maybe just a little bit below. We're going to try and hold that for about 15 seconds. The setup for this is as follows. I always like to start with my knees underneath my hips, place my hands a little bit wider than shoulder width, screw those shoulders in, and then from here I'm going to extend one leg while still keeping my hips and ribs in the front tucked, and then I extend my opposite leg. Staying as strong as I can, I'm going to lower myself to about half or maybe just a little bit lower, and I'm going to hold this position for 15 seconds, keeping my ribs and hips tucked in the front, staying strong, elbows off to the side, and that chin tucked. Once you're done your 15 seconds, place one knee down, opposite knee down, and come back up. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 15 seconds. Once you can do that relatively easy, then you'll be ready for a push-up off our feet. And now to do the push-up off our feet, the biggest thing you have to focus on is on the push back up, that we don't crack through that waist. We keep those ribs and hips tucked in the front. So that push-up off the feet, the setup is the same as that push-up hold. Hands underneath shoulders, extend one leg, extend the other leg. Screw those hands into the ground. Everything lowers at the same rate, and everything rises at the same rate. Everything lowers, everything rises. The biggest thing I see with youth hockey players is they come down, they're nice and strong, and then they go to push and they break through that low back. The core is the most important group of muscles we have. The push-up, you have to have a strong core. If you can't do a proper push-up, work your way back up the progression, whether it's the push-up holds, the kneeling push-ups, or the hands elevated push-up. So once again, a proper push-up should look as follows. Lower and rise. Lower and rise. All you have to be able to do is perform at least 3 good push-ups. You can break up, so you can still do sets of 10, 15, 20, and if you can do 3 good ones and you break them up, you do 3 at a time, you rest. 3 at a time, rest. 3 at a time, rest. Slowly build up, and then you'll be able to do 5, 10, 15, and so on and so forth. So once again, that is our push-up progression. We start with our hands elevated on a bar, then we go down to our kneeling push-ups, then we go to our push-up hold position, and then finally we're able to do push-ups off the ground. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram at martel.elite.fitness. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.